we see a lot of changes around us. For example, it may be sunny in the morning while it may rain in the afternoon. If you put water inside the freezer, it changes into ice. You boil water, it changes into water vapor. Your nails, you just cut your nails last Sunday, and after a few days, you see it's growing. So these are all changes we see around us. Changes are of different types. They are mostly divided into physical and chemical changes. So today we will be discussing about physical change. So what is a physical change? Any change in which no new substance is formed is known as a physical change. Or, in simpler words, in a physical change, a new substance is not formed. So, let's study about physical changes in detail. The first example that we are going to discuss is chopping of vegetables. Everyone has seen it. So before cooking food or making any salad or anything, what do? You chop the vegetables into smaller pieces. So what is happening? In the picture, if you see, the person is cutting cucumber. He's just chopping the vegetables into finer pieces. No new substance is being formed. Cucumber remains cucumber. Raw cucumber remains raw cucumber. The other picture there is tomatoes. Tomatoes have been finely chopped. What happens? Tomatoes remains tomatoes. That means the raw tomato remains raw. It's just that it has been chopped into finer pieces. No new substance is being formed. So, chopping of vegetables is an example of a physical change. The next example we are going to discuss is glowing of an electric bulb. So, when it is dark, what do? You switch on the light. When you switch on the light, what happens? Your bulb starts glowing. And when you switch it off, it stops glowing. No new substance is formed. You switch it on, the filament inside the bulb, it gets heated up and light is produced. And when you switch it off, the electric current stops and then your bulb also stops glowing. Or what happens when you switch it on? Fire, does the bulb catch fire? Is smoke produced? Is ash produced? Nothing is formed, no? Just the bulb glows, and when you switch it off, it stops glowing. That means no new substance is formed. The electric bulb remains as it is or it was. So it is a physical change. The next example is breaking of chalk. Suppose I take a piece of chalk and I break it. What happens? Only the size becomes smaller, but chalk remains chalk. There may be a change in the shape, there may be a change in the size, but chalk remains chalk. No new substance is formed. So, breaking of chalk is a physical change because no new substance is being formed. The next example is breaking of a glass tumbler. Now, what happens? Sometimes a glass tumbler may slip from your hand and it may break into pieces. You cannot join back the pieces to form glass tumbler again, but glass remains glass. No new substance is formed. Or once when the glass falls off and it breaks into pieces, does it change into wood? Does it change into metal? Does it change into copper? No. The glass pieces remains glass pieces. So no new substance is being formed. So breaking of a glass tumbler is also a physical change. The other one, you all wash your clothes and you keep it outside for drying. So what happens? The sun and the wind helps in evaporating the water from the wet clothes and then it becomes dry. Or is something new produced? Your clothes remains clothes only, isn't it? Only that your wet clothes have become dry now. So no new substance is being formed. So it is also an example of a physical change. The first and the most important characteristics of a physical change is that no new substance is formed. So remember, always in a physical change, no new substance is formed. Now let's come to the second characteristics. The next characteristics of a physical change is it is usually reversible. Remember, I'm using the word usually. What do you mean by the term reversible? Reversible means you will get back the original substance. For example, you take water and put it inside the fridge. What happens? It changes into ice. You take out the ice, keep it outside for some time. What happens? It melts back to water. That means you're getting back the water. So, this type of change is called reversible change. And a physical change is usually reversible. All physical changes are not reversible, but some physical changes are reversible. You will get back the original substance. Another example is melting of butter. Now, when you heat butter, what happens? It melts. But once you remove the heat, it solidifies back into butter, solid butter, isn't it? So, no new substance is being formed. The butter is only melting. The butter is only melting. Okay. So, once you remove the heat, again it becomes solid. So, uh, most of the physical changes are reversible. Another example is glowing of an electric bulb, which we have already discussed. You switch on the bulb, what happens? The light starts glowing. You switch it off, the bulb stops glowing. So it is a reversible change. You can switch it on to glow it, switch it off to stop glowing it. So we have discussed two characteristics of a physical change. The first and the most important one, no new substances formed. And the second one is it is usually reversible. Now let's discuss another characteristics of a physical change. Next characteristic is in a physical change, you may see a change in the state of matter. Now, what do you mean by that? We have already done states of matter solid, liquid, and gas. Now, if I put water inside the fridge, we all know it changes into ice. Ice is not a new substance. It is just the solid form of water or H2O. And when I heat water, what happens? It changes into water vapor. Water vapor is also not a new substance. It is just the gaseous form of water. That means ice is the solid form of H2O, water is the liquid form of H2O, and water vapor is the gaseous form of H2O. So, when you put water inside the fridge, what is happening? It is changing into solid. Liquid is changing into solid form. No new substance is formed, only there is change in the state of matter. When you heat water, what happens? It changes into water vapor. That means no new substance is being formed. There is only a change of state in matter. That means the liquid form of water is changing into the gaseous form of water. Similarly, when ice melts, what happens? The solid form is changing into the liquid form. So, in a physical change, you may observe a change in the state of matter without a new substance being formed. Remember, along with the change in states of matter, the most important thing is there should be no new substance being formed. So, till now, we have done three characteristics of physical change. The first and the most important one, no new substances formed. The second one, a physical change is usually reversible. And the third one, in a physical change, you may observe a change in the state of matter. Now, let's do the next characteristic.
The next characteristics of a physical change is there may be a change in the size, shape, and color of the substance. We have already done the example of chopping of vegetables. What happens when vegetables are chopped? The size and the shape of the vegetable changes, but no new substance is formed. There is only a change in the size and shape of the vegetable. The other example, which we have already discussed, breaking of chalk. Here also, when a chalk breaks, the size, the shape of the chalk may change, but no new substance is formed. Chalk remains chalk. Only the size and the shape of the chalk changes. So it is a physical change. The next example, also, which we have already discussed, breaking of a glass tumbler. When a glass tumbler breaks, only the shape, the size of the glass tumbler changes, but glass remains glass. No new substance is formed. There is a change in the size and shape, but no new substance is being formed. The next one, you all sharpen your pencil. Now, when you sharpen your pencil, what happens? The size of the pencil changes, but no new substance is formed. Pencil remains pencil. Similarly, when you paint, what happens? You only apply paint on the paper. The color of the paper changes, but no new substance is formed. When you paint, paper changes into something else. Does it change into cloth? Does it change into a canvas? Or does it change into cardboard? No, paper remains paper, only that the color of the paper has changed from white into a colorful sheet of paper. No new substance is being formed. So, painting on a piece of paper is also a physical change. There is change in color, but no new substance is being formed. The other example is dyeing of clothes. When clothes are put into a dye, what happens? The color of that cloth changes, but no new substance is formed. If it is a cotton cloth, the cloth remains cotton. No new substance is formed. When you dip it into dye, a cotton cloth does not change into a satin one, or it doesn't change into a silk cloth. It remains as it was, only the color changes. So, here also you will observe that there is a change in color. No new substance is being formed. So, the other characteristics of a physical change is there may be a change in the color, size, and shape of the substance, but no new substance is formed.
Till now, we have done four characteristics seen or observed in a physical change. The first one and the most important one, in a physical change, no new substance is formed. Number two, a physical change is usually reversible. Number three, in a physical change, there may be a change in the state of matter. Number four, in a physical change, there may be a change in size, shape, and color of the substance. Now we will do the last characteristic, and this is also very important. So, in all the examples that we did till now, whether it is reversible or not, whether there is change in states of matter or not, whether there is change in size, shape, or color of the substance or not, I told you no new substance is formed. Why is there no new substance being formed? Because during a physical change, the chemical composition of the substance does not change. The chemical composition remains the same. So, whatever it is made up of, whatever the substance is made up of, it remains the same. Like I gave you the example of water, ice, and water vapor. all are made up of H2O, whether it is in the ice form, whether it is in the water form, or whether it is in the water vapor form. The chemical composition does not change. So, the next important characteristics of a physical change is there is no change in the chemical composition. So, because of this, no new substance is being formed. So, we have done the different characteristics seen in a physical change. The two most important ones, which you see in all physical changes, are no new substance is formed, and number two, there is no change in the chemical composition. These two characteristics will be there in all physical changes. No new substance is formed. Number two, there is no change in the chemical composition. Besides these, in a physical change, you may observe that most of the physical changes are reversible. Next, there may be a change in the size, shape, and color of the substance. And the last one, there may be a change in the states of matter. So there are five characteristics observed in a physical change. No new substance is formed. There is no change in the chemical composition. It is usually reversible. There may be a change in the size, shape, and color of the substance, and there may be a change in the states of matter. So, these are the characteristics of a physical change. When you study physical change, there are some terms which you have to remember. They are always associated with the physical change. The first term is melting. I've already told you melting of ice, melting of butter. These are all physical changes. So, what is melting? Melting is the change of a substance from its solid state to its liquid state on heating. Change of solid state to its liquid state on heating is called melting. The next term associated with physical change is evaporation. Evaporation is the change of the liquid state into its gaseous state on heating. So, the change of liquid into gaseous state on heating is called evaporation. For example, when you boil water, it changes into water vapor. So, this process is known as evaporation. The next term is condensation. Condensation is the change of the gaseous state into its liquid state on cooling. The change of gaseous state into its liquid state on cooling is known as condensation. That means just the opposite of evaporation. In evaporation, it is liquid to gaseous on heating. Condensation is gaseous to liquid on cooling. The next term is freezing. The changing of the liquid state into its solid state on cooling is known as freezing. The change in the liquid state to the solid state on cooling is known as freezing. It is just the opposite of melting. Melting is solid to liquid on heating. Freezing is liquid to solid on cooling. Therefore, the terms melting, evaporation, condensation, and freezing is associated with physical change. They help in the change of state. Melting is solid to liquid on heating. Evaporation is liquid to gas on heating. Condensation is just the opposite now, gas to liquid on cooling. And freezing is liquid to solid on cooling. So all these terms are associated with a physical change: melting, evaporation, condensation, and freezing. In nature, you will see one very important process in which physical change takes place, and where all these terms which we have just studied also takes place. The water cycle, which you must have studied in geography. The water, it evaporates, then it condenses to form clouds, and precipitation takes place, isn't it? Then water falls down, and the cycle keeps continuing. No new substance is being formed, only the water is changing into different states of matter. So, water cycle is one very important process in nature where physical change takes place. So, we conclude today's topic by saying that physical change is a change in which no new substance is formed. Thank you.